go, and let's record.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening World. I'm Love Coach Scott Catamas, and this is the start of a new season of the Awakening World, a new month of July 1st for everybody, and a new season for the most part. For those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, it's summertime, and for those of our friends down under, it's winter. And we have a great show planned tonight. I want to welcome everybody watching on Unify. I see we have a lot of people watching on Unify tonight. And we're going to make tonight's show, and actually the new vision for the Awakening World is to be much more interactive. So we are going to take your questions, your thoughts, your comments. So interact with us. And for any of you watching on Facebook, and I want to thank John and Summer Raymer and the Sign Network for putting us out to as many as 100 different Facebook groups and pages. Or for those of you watching on Alan Steinfeld's YouTube channel, you can actually come directly into our Zoom room, and it's easy to do that. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com, and register. And you'll get the links to all 3 shows that we do every weekend for the next 3 months. We're going to be doing 3 shows each weekend for the next 3 months. And we would love to welcome you into the Global Peace Tribe family. So whether you're watching on Zoom or Facebook, welcome. We're glad to have you with us. And I thought, okay, we're starting a new season. We're starting summer. We're starting a new month. It's a lot of new beginnings. And I'm a strong believer that the most important thing we have in life is our health. And then the second most important thing in life are our relationships. Our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to the sacred, the divine, to God, whatever you call it, and of course, the relationship to each other. And so I've invited 2 of my absolute favorite human beings, both of whom happen to be brilliant relationship coaches, and we're going to talk tonight about how to transform our relationships. And so Trish is, at the last minute, isn't able to join us, but she's sending her love, and she's trying to create a video for us. So we might hear from Trish today. And we've got Omashar, our house musician. So Omashar is with us, which is awesome. And he's going to play a song for us in just a moment. But I also want to just briefly introduce our wonderful guests. The first one is my recently ex-roommate, very good friend. This is Paul Sterling, and many of you know Paul. He is the author of Argue Less, Love More, and Paul has something very, very exciting to share tonight. In fact, a large part of our desire to do the show was inspired by something special that Paul's going to offer tonight. So we're going to learn about that. And then she's back. Josie Ann, many of you who are regulars have seen her on the show. She's been on a few times. She was on our recent Authors That We Love show. And Josie Ann is, she's wonderful. She is dedicated to really supporting people, as is Paul and myself. And she recently wrote a book called Compassionate Love in Intimate Relationships, The Integration Process. And isn't that a beautiful title for a book? And isn't that what we all want to do? We all want to have more compassion in our lives. So, while Omashar is playing an opening song and my dog is barking, I will mute myself in a moment. I want to invite everybody, pop in the chat box. Where are you geographically? And that's for our friends on Facebook. This is me looking at my computer where I can see what's happening on Facebook. Or our friends in the Zoom room. Let us know where you are geographically, and let us know what relationships in your life you want to have more support with. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to our beloved house musician, Omashar. Take it away, partner.
Wow, how wonderful. A brand new season. It feels for me now like the new year. It really does. And like I'm going to make all these new Year's resolutions, and I will keep to them. I will stick to them. And as this show is being conjured up in the dream world, this song came to me, and it's called Come Back and Play. And it's from my album Shine On. And so it's a slow groove, and just please take a few deep breaths. Let's let go of everything that was concerning you throughout this day, and let's just have a lovely little time, intimate time with each other tonight. And so, yay, here we are, apparently. And here we go. Deep breath. In the beginning, when we were one, life was fun. The human race had just begun. When you were children, you laughed and played in the sun. So tell me now, where have you gone? And come back and play with the divine. You're part of me, walking through time. I didn't leave you in the dark. You are the jewel in my heart. We could never be apart. Whoa. I yearn for you endlessly. A field of dreams in between. You are the children of the sun, all of you. The world awaits your point of view. So come back and play with the walking through time. I didn't leave you in the dark. You are the jewel in my heart. We could never be apart.
Oh, Omashar, that was wonderful. I just,
Oh yeah, that was a great spirit talking to us.
and I love the double entendre because we all, in our relationships, and this is almost like a theme that we can explore to some degree tonight, is that in our relationships, we are longing through our human connection to remember our connection to life, if you want to call it a connection to God or connection to higher self. I think, Rumi is the most popular poet in America. There's more Rumi sold than any other poet. And I think it's because he speaks to the eternal beloved. He speaks to that part of us that long to feel connected to each other as human beings. And we also long to feel connected to the divine, to God.
Yeah, I think that a lot of our relationships are a longing to return to God, to the divine, and that is the nature of our relationship. And so without the divine aspect, we're kind of not doomed, I won't put it that way, but sort of like that within relationship. If you don't have that aspect to see the divine through the heart and the eyes of the beloved, what can you do apart from just remain in the matrix in third dimension? So.
I'm going to add Josiane to this conversation. I mean, even though this is a spontaneous direction we went into. So Josiane, you're on camera with Omashar and I. We're spotlighted, and I'll add Paul in a moment. But I know you well enough to know that you have a beautiful relationship to the divine, and you are definitely a lover of love. So what are your thoughts about that part of us that seeks love with another human being, but it also represents the love that we're seeking with life, with God, with higher self? What are your thoughts about that?
Thank you for having me, first of all. And Omasha, as usual, you are an angel on earth with your muse. The music is. I think the dog agrees with me.
I'm staying across the street from a park, and of course there's people in the park and dogs playing, and so that's what's going on. So I'll keep myself muted when she's barking.
That's all right. And I have my own Milu next to me, and it might be in and out of the screen, but always divine. So everything that we're experiencing is a spiritual experience based on the African philosophy. So the divine in itself, we are all coming from source, whether we are closer to source, a little bit further, but we are all divine. And so later on, I will have a meditation for us to really reconnect to the divine and to be more centered. And for me, my vision is to gain more connection and union and unity among all of us humans on Earth.
Since today is about tools and practices, what's your practice for doing that? What do you do to, especially maybe when you're in the human part of life, what do you do to reconnect to your connection to divine, to the divinity?
Yes. Actually, my spiritual practice has expanded since I've been on the show. So I've been connecting to so many of these amazing healers and practitioners, coaches, and literally I've been trying almost everybody. So if you need any type of idea who to connect with in order to feel this centeredness and this connection with the divine, the one that I'm using particularly is Meg Benedicte, and she has literally helped me with the quantum vortex. And so it's a quantum, for me, it's quantum love. I call it in my own private internal world, I call it my quantum love with myself, connecting with my higher self, with meditation and Metatron, Archangel Metatron and Archangel Michael in my life most of the time, in order to gain some protection and to know how to really rekindle this light within and to spread it out into the space and the field in order to share it with almost everyone, if possible. And that's what I do every morning, night, and meditation, just staying still and breathing, some breath work. Yes.
Beautiful. All right. Well, we're going to hear much more from Dr. Josiane in a bit. And you know, we kind of went into this direction out of almost our song, actually.
We did, and I'm going to take us in a slightly deeper into the this direction, because I just came back from Relax Expansion in Colorado, and I met the ghost of Scott. And it's interesting because part of my decision to fly from Colorado to Medford and to go to the Relax Expansion Festival was to connect with people again, and also hopefully to give my big brother a big hug. That is Scott, but of course Scott was sequestered. He was secretly conjuring up a plan for the summer series of the Awakening World. But this soliloquy was I was so heartened by being amongst 200 to 300 people who were all focusing on the divine, but all focusing on being fully grounded. Those beautiful families there. All of the music had a divine element to it, but it wasn't separate from having a tofu burger or a dog barking or whatever. It was just the most beautiful experience of families and a deepening that I could ever have imagined. I'm so grateful to myself for taking myself across there. And yes, I missed you, Scott, but we shall have that pleasure for sometime in the future.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. As most of you probably know, I had a COVID experience that knocked me out a little bit, so I wasn't able to make it to Relax Expansion. But I'm at about 90% of my energy level, and it feels so good to be healthy again. So I'm grateful for that. All right, I'm going to go to the great Paul Sterling. And Paul kind of went in this wonderful direction. What's your thoughts about that part of us that looks for love in humans when on some other level we're also seeking to feel connected to life? Where do you stand with that one?
I'm going to be the least divine of the group. I'll let the rest of the group. I got a background. I'm an ex-commercial fisherman from Alaska. My parents were kind of hippies, and I said, no, I'm going to go make it in the redneck world and become a commercial fisherman. So, and what I want to think about today in this is the quality of our relationships based on the quality of our communication, whether it's with the divine, with our partner, and almost most importantly, with ourselves. And when that communication falls apart, so does our relationship. So I want to ask people, if anybody else has ever asked themselves this question, like, why are the people you love so much, the people you love the most, often the most difficult to talk to? And what can you do about it? And part of what's going on for me, Scott, is I'm looking at the world, and the world is changing. Media is changing. The movies, Tinder and Match.com are changing the way we look at relationships. You know, there used to be your relationship possibilities were the people in your tribe or your village or something. And, you know, he might be a drunk alcoholic that beats you, but hey, he's better than nobody. And right now, that's no longer an option. The world has changed, and what people want and expect in relationships has changed. And if we don't update our skills, and that's part of what I love about Scott and the courses he takes, is he's helping people update their relationship skills, because a lot of skills, like I call it your relationship operating system, a lot of skills are outdated. They may have worked years ago and they may never have worked. But what I want to talk about is, how do you update your relationship and communication skills, whether it's with the divine, with yourself, or with a partner?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. So go ahead and share with us right off the bat, what's the very first tool that you want to share with people?
Well, all right, I'll share one other challenge before I dive into the tool. You know, there's an expression that says, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that gets a lot of traction, but it's 1/4 of the formula. It is what you say, it is how you say it. And that's a part most people focus on. But the most important part is it's what they hear and how they hear it. And the difference between a good teacher and a great teacher, a good teacher comes up in front of the room and tells the world, look at all the great things I've done. And the students walk out of the room impressed with the teacher. A great teacher wakes up something in the students, and the students walk out excited about themselves rather than the teacher. And so when we look at communication, a good communicator says, I said it right. You must have heard it wrong. I said I love you, and you heard that you suck. And I can give examples of that. And I was working with some prison inmates. I did a program in prison for 8.5 years. And one of I was working with the women's side, and one woman was telling her cellmate, her cellie, I really don't like it when you touch my stuff. I have very little privacy in jail, and I have a need for respect. Can you tell me what you heard me say? And her cellie said, yeah, you don't want me as a cellie. So what somebody said and what somebody else heard is often very different. In fact, one of our common mentors, Scott's, mine, a lot of people, the creator of nonviolent communication, a guy named the late Marshall Rosenberg, one of his favorite quotes, or my favorite quotes of his, is the normal outcome of most communication is misunderstanding. So it took 10 times with the inmate A saying a sentence before inmate B could repeat it. Now, I want you to walk away with some tips, and then I got to tell you what I'm up to. But one of the tips is, what's most important to you as a listener? And you can type in your answer to this. You as a listener, what's most important to you? What the speaker thought they said, or what you thought you heard? And if you're like most people, what's most important to you is what you thought you heard. So if you want to up-level your communication, you try to enter your partner's world, whoever you're communicating, and going, can you tell me what you heard? Oh, I thought I said, I love you. You heard that I need something, that it's like I scratched the car, or there's something coming, like, oh no, she said she loved me. That means she's wanting something, or he's wanting something. So how different would your life be if you could talk so your partner wants to listen, if you could listen so your partner wants to talk, if you could avoid, and see, that's what I did in my book. Is Marshall's book was about nonviolent communication, and it was what to do. It was really it was life-changing for me. And when I talked to Marshall, I looked at what are the 5 mistakes, the things that you that if you make these mistakes, you're going to trigger your partner and open, honest communication is going to stop. So back to what I was saying, I'm going to hand it back to Scott. Number one, talk so they want to listen, listen so they want to talk, how to avoid the 5 most common mistakes, and how to recognize, recover, and repair once you've made those mistakes. So, Scott.
Beautiful. So kind of, and of course we both teach, we both studied with Marshall, we both kind of learned. So it's very important, and I'll add one other piece, keep it to one thought at a time, share the thought, and then ask for reflection. What did you hear? What did you just hear me say? Those are like really magic words. So I'm going to go to our other brilliant relationship coach, Josiane. And Josiane, what are your thoughts about kind of this part of it, about communicating in a way where people can actually hear us? What are some of your thoughts, or maybe any tips, tools that you have for that?
Yes. I love what Paul shared, because it's kind of what I'm doing with my couples or the pairs of family members who come to my sessions. And basically, what we ask when they are facing each other is for them, before even talking, to be able to be in presence of the other. So they have to, what we call, or what Heidi Schleifer calls, she's an international couple therapist, and she calls it presencing. And if you don't present, meaning you are 100% completely there, then for sure you're going to misunderstand, as Paul was saying, what the other mean or meant to you, and what you interpret, the way that you interpret it. So it's so important to have first an invitation to see if it's a good time to talk. Because most of the time, like right now, if the dog is there, that might not be the best time. But we're going to let Milu acting out. Let me give him some stuff here. Once you have that presence of in between the two partners, then you need to know it's all in a service of the relationship. So you know in your heart, you are two, but also that relationship is an entity in itself. It's alive, it's moving, and it belongs not inside me or inside my partner, it belongs inside our space. It's what Martin Buber, the Jewish philosopher, mentioned, that it's the in-between that our relationship is alive. And we have to respect it, because sometimes, and perhaps most of the time, when we see the conflicts in the collective, we pollute, we bring a lot of toxicity. And in order to stop it or to dissolve it and dismantle and disintegrate any type of resistance and conflict, we need to be able to feel the other and be in their world. And that is important in order to present, to be present in the space of the other. And once we do that, it's important to not just assume what the other says, but to actually use a question. Have I heard you? And I hear you say that I'm messy. Have I heard you? And then if I haven't heard correctly, no, the person who said, actually, not quite. I said that you're a freaking mess. And the person has to repeat exactly the words, because for the person in their world, it's important to have that freaking word in there because of perhaps the family of origin or the type of trauma or experiences that the person has been through, that makes it so delicate to just assume that, oh, it's just a word, or what's the big deal? Well, but for the person in their world, in their different neighborhoods, it will take a different level of intensity and dimension in their heart. And you want to attend to the heart of the person in order to really, for them to understand you afterwards. If you don't go into their heart, then forget it. You know you're not going to bring any type or build any type of intimacy. So it's really important to be able to pause and present. And once you present, to go into the world and really just ask, I heard you say this. Have I heard you? And then go into correcting if that's not exactly what's going on. And most of the time when I do that, I've done that for more than 20 years now. And I tell you, people, no matter how close they are, they will say, oh my God, I can't believe I can do it. It's so hard to just repeat exactly what the other person said. It's, once we get into that space, that we take the time and we pause and we're still, there is something magical that happens. It's like an opening, especially when you're gazing into the eyes of the other and you're holding hands, which is the position that I put most of my couples and whatever relationships, if it's a grandmother with a grandson, a child, or if it's a father with his adult child, you name it, you will see in their face that they're just really amazed on how easy it is to misunderstand each other. So that tool is really the basic one that I really want for the audience to understand, that we are doomed to not understand and misinterpret because we have our own lenses in our own world. And today, my whole thing is about us to taking in the eyes of another in order to understand their world. And that's based on Marcel Proust, who says that the discovery, the true voyage of discovery, is to not travel all over the world and see some strange places, but to actually have the eyes of another and see their hundred of universes and go from one star to another, one star relationship to another relationship. And that is fundamental in order to dissolve any type of conflict, not only at the intimate level between a couple, a partner, or some relationships, but also at the global level between us as humans.
Thank you. That's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. I'm going to pop in for a minute because as a coach, of course, I've got to riff on this. So at the very beginning, she was talking about choosing when we're going to have communication. And so a tool that I want to offer is anytime we're going to have an important conversation with someone, to make sure that both parties are well resourced, right? So if I'm going to have a conversation with Josiane about something important, to make sure that she's well resourced and that I'm well resourced. And isn't it amazing how often we'll bring up a difficult topic when we're exhausted or the other person's not in a good headspace. And so rule number one with couples, only talk about, or friends, any relationship, whether your mother, your daughter, your kids, any relationship that's important, only talk about the hard stuff when you both are centered, well resourced, had enough food, had enough water, had good sleep, aren't distracted with something else. So that's a really important part that kind of I got inspired and thought about it when you were talking about that. So I'm going to bring Paul back on for a moment, so we'll all be here. So one of the questions that just came in on Facebook is, how do you handle when someone's ghosting you? When, my teenage, the person on Facebook says, my teenage son doesn't want to talk to me, and he ghosts me. How do I talk to him about important things? Do either of you have anything you want to respond to?
Yeah, can I play with you for a second, Scott?
Sure.
That all right. So if I'm giving you $100 bills, when do you want me to stop?
Never.
Why?
Because I'm receiving a gift and I'm enjoying it.
Would you ghost me if I was giving you $100 bills?
Probably not.
Of course. So oftentimes, and it's not always, like we're not talking always, but oftentimes when somebody's ghosting somebody, they don't feel heard, understood, and valued. In fact, you started this talk a little bit with Rumi, and there's a Rumi quote. I probably don't have it exactly, but there's a field out beyond right and wrong. I'll meet you there. And often what happens is kids feel judged by their parents. And so they're afraid of being judged and they don't feel safe. So they ghost. I know I've ghosted. I've pulled away when I don't feel safe in a space. I pull away. It doesn't feel like my needs are being met there. And so that's what I would say for right now. And you're muted, Scott.
Thank you. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Paul. We have to feel safe to connect. And so if someone's ghosting you, whether even if it's your own son, he doesn't feel safe, whatever the topic of the conversation is or the dynamics. And so we have to ask him, what would you need to feel comfortable talking to me? What do you need to feel good about talking to me? And to make it safe to even answer that question. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
I want to tell a quick story. One of my clients, and they said I could share this story, is an airline pilot, and he was flying a 777, like one of the biggest jets, from Milan to Miami. They landed, and when they're taxiing to the ramp, there was a commotion, and finally when they got it parked, the attendant came and said, "Captain, you got to come back. Somebody's freaking out in first class." And see, to understand a story, we communicate from three different places: from our head, which is all about logic and reason; from our heart, which is about our feelings and needs; and from our hurt, which is our reptile brain. And it's about danger and safety. And this is the theme of this kind of talk right now, this part of it. Now, the captain's going back to talk to this woman in first class who's freaking out, and she's going, "What would Paul say? He's saying, what would Paul say?" And he gets back there, and this woman is yelling, and everybody in first class is really tense. Now, the captain could have had her thrown off, could have called TSA, could have probably had her right to fly removed because of her behavior. Instead, he just comes up to her and says, "Excuse me, ma'am, what do you need to feel safe right now?" And the tension in all of first class, everybody just kind of exhaled because they thought a conflict was going to happen. Instead, he just leaned into her world, asked her, what did she need to feel safe? And she just reached out and touched his arm and said, "I need to feel secure. Can you take me to the customs?" And he made sure the co-pilot could handle it, and he took her to customs, and he totally diffused the situation with one sentence: "What do you need to feel safe right now?" Because until you feel safe, you're communicating to a reptile, and the only thing the reptile brain is worried about is, are you my enemy or my ally? Are you safe or are you dangerous? So that's a long answer there, Scott, but
Yeah, I mean, it's all about safety. And, that's what comes up also. Oftentimes, if we think that somebody that we're relating to isn't being honest with us, again, you have to feel safe in order to be honest. If a little kid puts his hand into the cookie jar and eats a cookie, and mom says, "Did you eat a cookie?" And he goes, "Yeah," and she hits him, he's never going to be honest about it again, right? So we have to make it safe to be honest. We have to make it safe to communicate, to connect. So, Dr. Josiane, I'm going to bring you on. Any thoughts about this particular part of making it safe to connect?
Definitely. So I'm just going to say I respect all the parents out there. This is the toughest job on earth. This is not easy, especially with teenage kids. This is tough, especially nowadays with the pandemic. They feel very isolated, although they might be at home with the family, but inside, they are not connecting the same way that they used 2 or 3 years ago. So I feel for both the children, the teens, and the parents or the caretakers. So kudos to all of you out there. And what I have to share is right now, your teen is everything, is asking for stability. So the safety comes, that stability, that no matter how I'm going to isolate in my room, I want to know that you're out there and still supporting me with your love. And a lot of parents don't understand that at the teen, during puberty, our neurons are pruning. We're getting rid of some that are not useful and we're replacing them with others to make some new neural pathways. And the parents freak out and say, oh my God, there's a teen crisis, pubertal crisis. But actually it's just a cycle. And if the parents could just calm down and be patient, that should pass. I promise you. I have 3 wonderful boys and now they're adults, it all passed. Why? It's just a moment in their time right now that they need to make sense of themselves. And if you're not showing that stability, then it's difficult for the change to occur in a very smooth way. If they don't want to talk with you, do not want to talk with them. That's it. Do not push them because it's saying that, okay, I don't feel significant anymore because you don't respect my boundaries. It's all about boundaries also. So imagine that your teen is in his room or her room and they're just trying to make sense. Okay, I'm not talking to my friends anymore the way that I used to. I have less friends. I'm supposed to be, an adult very soon, pick a school or do well in school and maybe find a summer job or something. And then I have this mom who's trying to tell me, how are you? That's the question that we should not ask. I was thinking actually a few days ago, what other ways can we get into the world of somebody, especially a teen? And I was thinking that if we can ask them just the permission, is it okay to be just there with you? And if they say yes, that's already winning the war. You're already 50% in just by being present with them. If you can just understand that your presence, okay, like the presence of my dog, is so rich to them, and they might not have the words to voice exactly or to express their emotions because maybe they didn't learn how to express their emotions or to actually label what is the exact feeling that's going through my body, mind, and spirit at that moment. So it's important to know that it's not that they don't want you, they just don't want you right in their space, but they surely need you and the structure that you have already in place. And believe me, although it's not showing up right now, but they are taking in everything. Okay, and it's so important to know that it's not showing right there, but it's really internalized in their own way and their own space and pace inside their mind, body, and spirit.
Thank you
And
so much.
usually, I was just going to add that usually what happens, because I work now with an hospital in Miami, the Nicholas Hospital. And really what's happening right now is the amount of anxiety of the collective is going into our children. Why? Because usually they're the first ones who want to recreate homeostasis for us adults. They're the one who, when there's only the couples, their parents, they see that there's a chaos, they're trying to reestablish order by bringing the attention, and that attention could be, acting out in school, just for the parents to stay together in order for the parents to be there for the child. You understand? It's so important to understand that the children are not only the hope of the future, but in the present moment, they're the one absorbing everything from the collective for us to do better as adults.
I love that you're saying that. I'm going to bring Paul in for a moment because we've got a question from the audience for you, Paul.
Okay.
Just riffing on what you just said, Josiane. All families are symbiotic. They all are interactive on subconscious levels. And I'm sure both of you have experienced where a couple will I'll just speak for myself, hire me to help little Johnny. Johnny's getting into fights at school. Johnny, we don't understand why Johnny's so angry all the time. And then as I get to know the parents, both of the parents are really hating on each other, but they're stuffing the hate, and little Johnny is picking up that agitation, and he's then acting it out. And so it's really important for us to look at the different family members. Who's the peacemaker in the family? Who's the shaman in the family? Who's expressing the uncomfortable emotions that other members of the family are stuffing or expressing in passive-aggressive ways? So it's really fascinating family dynamics in that way, and I love how you brought that up. Paul, here's the question for you.
But Scott, before you go there, can I ask, I just want to do one thing with everybody to tie into what Josiane was saying, and I'll go to the question. But if everybody could hold their hand like this, including you, Scott, everyone just hold your hand like this. Now go like this. Now go like this. Go like this. Now put your hand on your chin. Now look around. How many of you put your hand on your chin? Very few. Your chin is down here. Oh. Your cheek is up here. So what does that have to do with what Josiane was saying, what we've been talking about? There's a study, and these numbers are just, they're useful, not entirely accurate, but it says 55% of our communication comes from our physiology, our body language. So my body said, put your hand on your cheek. My words said, put your hand on your chin. My body outweighed that. So Scott, what you were talking about, like there's tension, it's carried in the body. What are we communicating with our body, our physiology? What are we communicating with our tone? And our words may say, I love you. And the rest of it may say, so it's like learning why Marshall's quote that I love, the normal outcome of most communication misunderstanding. Why? It's because we're communicating one thing with our body, something else with our tone, and the third thing, we're focused on our words. So what I just wanted to tie that in so people have an experience of the three different types of communication. And what's your question, Scott?
Well, no, that was beautiful. Good stuff. So a couple of people have been coming in with additional questions about how to avoid being judged, how to avoid criticism, how to handle expressing difficult things without being heard critically. And one of the things that I learned from you, Paul, and I shared with my couples all the time, is no BSW. So I would love for you to share your wisdom about the BSW, the Paul Sterling speech about no BSW.
So thank you, Scott. And goes back to it's the expression that said, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It is what you say. If BSW stands for bad, stupid, wrong. So if you think about it, all of us have an internal listening switch, and it's designed to protect our psyche, our ego, our heart, whatever it is. And as soon as we hear somebody is there to make us feel bad, stupid, and wrong, then our listening switch shuts down. Now, if you have advanced skills studying with Marshall, you're able to translate, even when they say bad, stupid, wrong, you're able to translate that into a beautiful underlying need. But it's like, look at what's your intention. If I come, there's a set of beliefs. Okay, here we go. We have surface beliefs, I reverse pyramid. So surface, mid, core beliefs. If you make a change in a core belief, and a core belief might be if you're religious and you go to atheist, or you're atheist and go to religious, anything you change as core belief affects everything above it. It changes your mid-level surface. So a core belief I have is almost every interaction in a relationship, I'm either trying to give a gift or I'm trying to receive a gift. It's either, I think I heard it from Marshall or the Course in Miracle, act of love or cry for help. And if I came to Scott and said, Scott, you're selfish, cold, distant, frigid, give me a hug. Am I setting it up to win? So if I start by making Scott bad, stupid, and wrong, and then follow it with a complaint, with a request, it's unlikely to work. If I went to Scott and said, Scott, I haven't had a hug in a long time. I'm feeling really scared to even ask you. And it would really meet so many of my needs for connection, to feel valued and precious. Would you be willing to give me a hug? And so am I setting it up? Which one felt better, Scott?
Yeah, of course. The second one, of course. Absolutely.
And behind every complaint is a hidden request. It's just said in a way that we get to avoid being vulnerable. If I just complain about you, I'm not vulnerable. If I want to have an intimate relationship, one of the foundations is my willingness to be open and honest and vulnerable.
Absolutely. Beautiful. So no BSW stands for no bad, no stupid, no wrong, not, and really thinking before we speak, how can I express myself in a way where I'm expressing what I want the other one to hear without using judgmental language or judgmental tone of voice? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a muscle. See, vulnerability is outside the comfort zone. So there's a comfort zone, the growth zone, and the terror zone, like three circles that get in the comfort zone, we're in our old habits, patterns, and ways of being. When we're in the growth zone, it's uncomfortable. I'm stretching. And if I'm not uncomfortable, I'm not actually being vulnerable. How do you know when you're being vulnerable? You're uncomfortable. What I want to do, though, is I don't want to get in the terror zone, because then it's my reptile brain talking to your reptile brain. And Scott, one of the things that you taught me that I use with my clients and use with myself is green light, yellow light, red light, because that's sort of like normal and stretching and out there. You want to talk about that? Because I think that ties in here.
That is a very big thing that we will talk about. But I want to actually go to Josiane next. And Josiane, I've downloaded those videos, so I'm going to bring you on camera with me. Now, I noticed that the spiritual music video is about 3 hours long. So I assume you want me to play Maya Angelou first? Okay.
Yeah, that will be fine. I can skip the spiritual music. And so since the theme is about human relationships, I thought we could start with that, kind of defining what is it to be human. And that's what Maya Angelou is going to share with us in a beautiful and very deep way.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing it. And here we go. We are now adding Maya Angelou to our Zoom room here.
If I think of my life as a class and what I've really learned, I've learned a few things. First, I'm aware that I'm a child of God. It's such an amazing understanding to think that the it, which made fleas and mountains and rivers and stars, made me. What I prayed for is humility, to know that there is something greater than I. Then I have to know that the brute, the bigot, and the batterer are all children of God, whether they know it or not. And I'm supposed to treat them accordingly. And it's hard, and I blow it all the time. Mongrel class of people. I'd like everybody to think of a statement by Terence. The statement is, I am a human being. Nothing human can be alien to me. If you can internalize the least portion of that, you will never be able to say of an act, a criminal act, or I couldn't do that. No matter how heinous the crime, if a human being did it, you have to say, I have in me all the components that are in her or in him. I intend to use my energies constructively as opposed to destructively. If you can do that about the negative, just think what you can do about the positive. If a human being dreams a great dream, dares to love somebody, if a human being dares to be Martin King or Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa or Malcolm X, if a human being dares to be bigger than the condition into which she or he was born, it means so can you. And so you can try to stretch yourself. So you can internalize, homo sum, humani nihila me alienum puto. I am a human being. Nothing human can be alien to me. That's one thing I'm learning.
That is absolutely beautiful. Just beautiful. Wow.
Yes, it's not only beautiful, but it's so, it would be for all of us if we could just apply that. We could just transform the whole energy that is so dense right now with violence, conflicts, and lots of suffering in the world. And basically, being human is seeing that we have all these qualities that look like light qualities and shadow qualities. And the shadow qualities, we would tend to project them onto others. And that creates more separation, right? That creates these polarities between us, divisions, and so much conflicts, so many conflicts. And it's important to know that when we see, for instance, to go back even to the child or the teenager in a room, that, okay, what is the need? What is, it's all about love, but love is going to express itself in some basic needs and spiritual needs. And as a strategic intervention coach, I am using the 6 human needs from Tony Robbins and Chloe Madanes. And So the first one is based on stability, and stability means security, protection, feeling safe. And at the same time, once we have that stability, we want change. Otherwise, we bore. And we will do anything not to be bored in this society because it's such a fast-paced world. And so that change can come into.
Sorry. And my mouse isn't working, so I'm not able to mute myself right now.
Okay.
I'm going to try and get my mouse to work. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. I think we're fine as long as Milo doesn't go into it.
If you make someone a co-host, they'd be able to
Yeah,
mute you.
Omashar is co-host. Can you mute me, Omashar?
So thank you. So I was saying that, what was I saying? Okay, my talk now is getting into it. It's so important to know that, so there's the first three needs that we call stability and then change. Those two are in nature. There's nothing that stays the same. The flow of nature is to change. And because we think we look the same, but we're changing every single second. And this who we are right now is moving and changing, and it's modulated with our ideas, our thoughts, our feelings, and our spirit. And once we get to align all of those three dimensions, we get to understand what it is to be human at not just the scale of what I like, what my preferences are, but at a global scale, which is a human scale that's really infinite, with infinite possibilities. So we think a lot of times that, so let's say to be bitchy or angry is bad, but no, if we could look at it in a different light and understand through the lens of love that actually our body is trying to tell us to pay attention to something. That if we are angry with something that's happening in our space, with our beloved, with our partner or our children, it's because there's something that we did not attend, maybe when we were a child, maybe in another lifetime even. So it's very important to know that whatever our feelings are saying, it's a compass and not to see it as something bad per se. It's so important. And in the scale, so we have those stability, change, or certainty and uncertainty, and then the need for significance. We all want to be significant. So imagine if that teenager is in a room to try to gain some significance, maybe from his peers, maybe from his parents, and is thinking the only way to make myself, look important is to be in my room. And then the mom is panicking, saying, oh, there's something wrong. The parents are wondering if they should do an intervention. Shh, we have to pause. The need for significance is so important because it goes into the connection, the love and connection, but it's at a different level. And the fact that they are different, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just they're different. It's like our 5 fingers. They're all different, but we need all of them to work together in order to be able to do something very productive. And so the other 3 needs are the needs for the spiritual need. It's not spiritual in terms of religion, but in terms of spirit, our spirit. So we all have a spirit of intimacy, a spirit of being, a spirit of generosity, but we use this spirit in different ways, sometimes in a poor way, sometimes in a very exalted way. So the first need in the spiritual dimension is the love and connection. And I think for me, I use it as a bridge between the basic needs and the spiritual needs. Without love, we can't do anything. And since I just wrote a book on compassionate love is that pure love, that's unconditional love. it's really divine universal love that it's in us, but we have to reactivate it, because when we came into this earth plane, we got, it's underneath, it got like sidetracked through the matrix, and we have to recall and remember who we are in order to activate that compassionate love and really go into the world of somebody else and to want to center on their well-being, to center on goodness and our kindness in order to help them be and what they're meant to be in their divinity. So the next need is the need for growth. We all grow. If we don't grow, we die. So we can die spiritually, physically, emotionally. We could be in a marriage of a long time, and be dead or have divorced spiritually with the person maybe 50 times. So it's important to know how to grow, and how from growing, how to know that it's important to contribute. So when we are in relationships with someone, often we want to be understood first. And that's where it creates some type of separation, division, and discord in a way, because the other person wants to be understood also. So we have a choice, either to speak together at the same time and not hear each other and get in trouble, and losing sense of what is it that we're trying to convey at that moment. So we have to be like the bigger adult in this dyad, in this pair, in order to see that it is possible. It is possible to actually allow the person to, if the person is not used, well, doesn't have the tools in order to grow, we need to be able to give them the space to use ourselves as a container of light in order for the person to grow and feel safe and really expand, in order to contribute to the relationship, this intimate relationship, and to the world in general.
Thank you. That was amazing and a lot and beautiful. And I want to take a minute I brought Paul on too, because I want to hear from him. But I want to acknowledge that I've just had a crazy technology thing happen, which is my mouse stopped working on my main computer. So I apologize for you watching me scrambling around while Josiane was sharing. Finally, thank you, Omoshar, for removing the spotlight from off me. And thank you, Josiane, for sharing that wonderful knowledge and wisdom. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Paul. I'm going to try and see if I can get my mouse to work on the main computer that I primarily use. I apologize, I'm on my little short backup right now, but I'm going to turn it over to you, Paul, for whatever you wish to share. And certainly I see that there are some questions in the chat box. If you want to respond to that, that would be great. But I want to give Paul a chance and I'm trying to, this is crazy. And now, oh, I don't believe it. Now the mouse isn't working.
Okay. I think I've got the show right now, and I will read that question in a second. What I just wanted to say, if you weave it through this, at least for me, the thread here, is we want communication to be simple. There's a little kid in almost all of us that says, message sent, message received. I said it right, they heard it right. That's the way communication should be. Why is it so damn complex? And I want to tie into that and go through a couple of things. Number one, part of the reason it's complex is because we're communicating from and I already said this, our body. So our body's communicating something, our tone's communicating something, our words communicating something, and we're communicating from different places. If we're communicating from our head, it's all about logic, reason, facts, figures. If somebody's listening from their heart, they don't care about the facts or figures. They care about feelings and needs. And if they're in their reptile brain, they only care about safety. Are you the enemy or the ally? So all of these are mixed together. This is why communication becomes so challenging. And here is the danger. And it is a real danger, actually. I don't want to underexpress it, overexpress it, but the real danger of being in your reptile brain is sometimes you get stuck in this dominate or be dominated. When you're in your reptile brain, it's all about safety. And if it's, whether it's your kids or your partner, and it feels like they're trying to dominate you, you either can be dominated or you can dominate back. And that's what every upset and argument looks like. It's like a battle for domination. The story I told earlier about the airline pilot, he could have gone back and told the woman and tried to dominate her. And that's what had happened. They tried to dominate her, the flight attendants, and the more loud they got, the louder she got. She was not going to be dominated. He went back, and what he was not in his reptile brain, was in his heart. And he came from choice and created this. What do you need to feel safe right now? This is not the normal way. Dan's talking the way, I'm talking the way, Scott's talking. We're not talking about normal communication. Look in the world what happened with normal communication. Normal communication creates outcomes that most of us don't want. What we're talking about is a very different way of communicating from the heart, communicating with compassion, communicating consciously. And everybody out there, go ahead and make a muscle. Josie Ann, show us your muscles. Let's see, come on. Yeah, there you go, girl. Oh my God, damn, I'm not going to arm wrestle you. But it's like, how do you build a muscle? You practice it. Omashar showing us his muscles. And so it's like practicing vulnerability, practicing communication. You show up at the gym. That's why I created an app. And I'm going to talk about it at some point soon, but I have an app on the phone. And we're going to spend 6 weeks going through practicing communication. We're going to meet once a week, and then during the week, you're going to have practice. And so it's a chance to build your communication muscle. We're taught how to talk as a kid. We're not taught how to communicate. That's what's different. So, and Josie Ann, I saw you unmuted yourself. Did you want to dive in there too? And I'll look at this question too.
I'm trying to, okay, so where are you right now? I was responding to the questions on the chat.
Well, one question says, can you share about an unusual or funny relationship and what you learned from it? In case one of the most more memorable relationship was very smart, cool, interesting, intern in Vienna. Each of us knew 3 languages. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so actually last week, I have one of my dearest clients who called me or he texted me and he said, I need an emergency session. And I was like, oh, wow, something happened major. Wow, okay, sure. I scheduled the session and he came to see me and he was so deeply hurt. And I was actually wondering if, I was not going to have like an intervention on him because I really felt bad for him. And what he shared with me was so, from such a vulnerable place. He had gone to, so he's a white Hispanic. He went up north for the graduation of his daughter, who lives with his her mom and her stepdad, and both are white folks. And it came into understanding all of a sudden that was a white culture that from Miami, from where he's from, and it's not from Miami, but he's from Venezuela. And for him, Miami, the culture is still Latin. And he went up north and he was totally taken aback by the fact that he felt he did not belong. He just did not belong. The food was different. They were speaking English and he could not understand, or he didn't feel like he wanted to even get into the conversation because he didn't care about that conversation. He wanted to have fun and speak Spanish. And he realized, oh my God, what that I was as a Black person. I was the only one he thought that I could understand what he was going through, that cultural shock that he realized, and he's a 45-year-old guy, he realized all of a sudden that even contemplating maybe moving up north was out of the question because he did not belong anymore. He saw the divide, he saw the differences, and he felt comfortable, and he realized that all his life he was split in two. He was into this white world, yet he had his Hispanic roots, and he never put them together. So when he came to see me, and he knew my book is about integration, and he was actually one of the original person that I felt compelled to write about integration, that we all need in order to really be enlightened one day, hopefully. And when I mean enlightened, it to mean to bring our feminine and masculine energies together, aligned, to bring all the differences that we have within ourselves aligned in order to be aligned with other humans. And so he realized that he was still not aligned with his own different lenses that he has when he was looking at his daughter in that world, and he felt he did not belong. He felt he had an accent, he felt rejected, he felt, and he didn't tell me exactly if they said something wrong to him, but he felt this perception that he was not welcome. That's what he felt. So I'm saying that for you to understand, we can never underestimate what somebody is going through. For him, it was major. And I was thinking, well, welcome to my world. I see that almost every day as a Black person. And it was not, so for me, it was not a big deal, but for him, wow. So I had the most respect that he felt compelled to share that, to pay quite some money to share that with me, because he never felt that he never really, he just took it for granted. How about that? He took it for granted what some of us are going through, and that he realized that culturally, that language is kind of universal. The language of love, we can send it, we can feel it, we can energetically understand that it's not there. And the love that he expected from this family up north was not there for him.
Mm. You know, I think it's the wonderful thing of really learning to drop into another person's world, to be in another person's shoes. And, you know, that's such a powerful thing for us to constantly practice, constantly learn. And thank goodness my mouse is finally working again. That was dramatic. Hey, I want to let people know how people can get your book, because Josiane, you've written a really beautiful book, Compassionate Love in Intimate Relationships. And you deal with really hard stuff, sexual trauma, racism, and resilience. And I've put your link, and there's a promo code. I've put that into the Zoom room. So everybody go into the Zoom room, and I'll also post this on Facebook. And this is how you can get your book. And tell us about the promo code. What happens when we use that promo code?
You get 20% off, which is not negligible. So what's happening is my book is an academic book. It's for institutions, universities, and scientists and scholars. But you know what? I think it belongs to all of us. It belongs to the public. It's what we need right now, compassionate love, unconditional love, in order to shift this energy that's totally polluting our space and our worlds and our bodies and minds. So that's why I'm sending it to you. And really, the bottom line is we have to know that we can shift it. Don't get scared with what's happening in the collective. Do not panic, guys. It's so scary, but take your fear under your arms and know that it's possible without heart. When our hearts stay totally pure, full of love, connecting with our higher self, we are able to shift so many things and to extend our love, even to the people who don't want our love. You extend it, it doesn't matter. You are shifting miles away, which we call in science is the butterfly effect. So miles away, we can shift what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening, in Russians, soldiers, what's happening in Africa, in India, everywhere, miles away, when we stay focused on what we want. So the whole thing is to have a shared vision of the world that we want to awaken and create together.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. And that is what the Awakening World is all about. And that's why I wanted you, Josiane, to be on our very first show. You so embody what this show is all about. And one last time, I just want to take people to it's compassionate love in intimate relationships, the integration process of sexual mass trauma, racism, and resilience. And such a beautiful, beautiful book. And are you available for private coaching at this time, Josiane, if people feel called to reach out to you?
I will be in 3-4 weeks. I'm going away, so I don't want to start anything right now, and I'm kind of overwhelmed with this new contracts coming in. And but definitely, please be patient and know that there's help out there. And I would be willing to take any of your calls, any of your emails. You send them to me, and I will be sending you plenty of love.
Okay, beautiful. And I've put it into the chat box, but again, her website is integrativewellness.com. So you got to wait a month until she's, back from these wonderful travels that you're going to be going to some pretty magical places, actually.
Yes.
Greece, Portugal, Paris. I'm quite envious, to be honest. But you can, a month from now, book a consultation with Dr. Josiane, but between now and then, maybe get the book.
And I have to say,
Josiane.
if you have a coach or therapist, if they don't take care of themselves, then you're not in good hands.
That's right. Well, you're very good at taking care of yourself. I respect you for that. I can learn from you on that one for sure. Thanks for being with us, Dr. Josiane. Thank you so much.
For having me.
And I want to apologize to everybody. It's been kind of a technology moment. Just as the show started, I started getting messages from people that, of course, this is the very first show of the new season, and that one of the confirmation letters had last spring's links. So I've been scrambling to kind of resolve that issue. And then my mouse stopped working. So it's been one of those kind of little technology moments. So thank you for bearing with me. My motto is how perfectly human. So I've been having some how perfectly human moments during this first episode of the Awakening World. Hey, I'm going to bring my buddy Paul on because now hopefully my mouse will last long enough for Paul to tell us all about this amazing app that he's created. And because Paul has been living with me up until a month or two ago, I know that he's worked very, very hard. That's a big deal to create an app. So Paul, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring up the actual website, and maybe you can kind of walk us through. And let me put into chat box first. Everybody, let me put Paul all the details. So people, if you want, you can go straight to the website yourself, or we're also going to follow along as I walk it. So hang on. Here is everything you've always wanted to know about Paul Sterling, but we're afraid to ask. And Paul, now if you can walk us through and tell us about the app.
So one of the things, Scott, I know, like you said, we were roommates, so you get coaching calls almost 24/7. Like that is you. And when people have breakdowns, it's normally not at a convenient time. And so I thought, what if people have with them all the time? They have their app. So what if I could create an app that's a mix of two things, a training. So it's a 6-week training. And then at the end of each training, there's practice so that people can practice and have that app. And if they get in the middle of an upset, they can go right to the app and go through the process. And basically, there's 4 areas I wanted to focus on. Number 1, how to talk so that your partner wants to listen. And what are the triggers that stop your partner from listening? Number 2, how to listen so that your partner opens up, or your kids or somebody else. I work mostly with couples. So that's my main focus. But the tools I teach, people use in their business, they work with their family, all the rest of that. So number 1, talk so they want to listen. Number 2, listen so they want to talk. Number 3, how to avoid the 5 triggers, the 5 most common triggers that shut down communication. And they are storytelling, message assuming, cup stuffing, case building, the fatal Fs. So we're not going to go through those tonight, but that's what we're going to go through in the course. And those, when you do them by accident or intentionally or whatever, it will stop communication in its tracks. And the last part of it is how to recognize, recover, and repair when you do make those mistakes. Because if you're going to have tough conversations, you're going to have times when people get upset and get triggered. And what people can do, there's 2 things they can do, Scott. They can go to right there, the argue less, love more.net/bridge. I should have put in the HTTP because then it would be an active live link and you could see it. Or, and by the way, it's $297 per person for the 6 weeks for the app. You get a free copy of my book. You also get, it's in PDF form. You also get a free audio of the whole book. So if you'd rather learn by listening, you can listen to it. And if you already know that you want this, you can go to love.passion.io on your phone and sign up right there. And if you have questions, you can get a hold of me. I do coach people one-on-one, but obviously it's not $297. It's, I work with people that are really committed to having a breakthrough. And so that's it. I'm super proud of this. It really has taken probably almost a year to create this and about 20 or 30 years of studying relationships and communication to put the technology together. And this is this is like the beta test group. It's not beta test on the information that I've been spending 30 years gathering. It's beta testing on the technology. So if you want to be one of the first to go through this and get more of my time and attention, this is a good time to go through it. If you want to wait till it's perfect, wait till the next couple of times, and it won't be live. It will all be recorded. This is the live time.
Great. So again, I'm just going to walk people through when you go to one of those links. It'll take you here. And it really has he's put together a really great kind of introduction to what we want to do, we're looking for in our relationships. And so you kind of scroll down, you take a look at all the different steps and all the different parts to it. And then this is where you can take this 6-week online course through the app. And again, continue. And then this is where you click. And when you click there, that will take you to where you can register to get the app. And you can do this on your phone. Of course, I'm doing it on my computer right now to show us. And looks like you've done a lot of work. I know that's a lot of work, Paul, to set up all that technology. So beautiful.
Yeah, and July 24th is the start date. When we start, it's Sundays from 11 to 12:30 West Coast time, 6 Sundays in a row. And thank you, Scott, for putting this on, and just how committed you are to making a difference on the planet, being a light. Like, you know, when they look at from above the planet from a satellite and to see the cities of light, they're probably the angels that look down and see the people of light. And you would be, your show, your guests would be one of those places where people would look down and see this light, that someone down there making a difference. And even when you were sick, you were like, I'm committed. I've never met anybody that's more committed. Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Josie
I
Ann.
agree. I agree. It's amazing. What a platform for everyone out there to be able to ask questions, to hear something uplifting, and for literally nothing, you know, for free, just because of your big heart. So thank you so much. And I think Milu agrees too.
Thank you. Well, thank you very, very much. Thank you. In a moment, we're going to go to Omashar for a closing song, but I do have some announcements that I need to make that are very important. First off, Dorina, who's one of our regulars, sent several kind of fun memes, and here's one of them, which I really enjoyed. They say, the only way to get over a broken heart is to fall in love again. So I fell in love with myself. And that's a great reminder. Remember that self-love is the most important form of love of all. So thank you, Dorina, for being with us, and thank you for sending that. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I know that we're just getting started with the new season and the wrong Zoom links, but you're here. And each and every one of you is precious. And we didn't have as much chance to interact as I had originally imagined, but the Saturday night shows now are Zoom meetings, not Zoom webinars, which means that you will have the option to turn your camera on so we can see Storm and Eleanor Joy and all of you that do turn on your cameras, Kathy. And just want to tell you what we're going to have tomorrow and the next evening. Tomorrow night, my friend Tangela from Soul Search will be my co-host, and Omashar will be with us doing music. And people said they wanted more magic, so I checked in, and Paul Draper will be with us live, providing some magic for us tomorrow night. He's going to do quite a bit of magic for us. And then Raquel Spring and Nicole Keating are with us, and they're both really brilliant spiritual teachers who are going to share tips, tools, and practices for how we can really enjoy life to the fullest. So that's going to be tomorrow night. And Omashar is providing music. And during tonight's show, Fanny and Vigari got back to me, and they are going to also join us to provide some music. So you'll have live music with Omashar, live music with Fanny and Vigari, two of our absolute favorites. And then finally, on Sunday, Tangela will be back co-hosting with me, and Omashar will be back playing music, and Melissa Fike, who's also really lovely. And these are all, I've invited some of my favorite guests from the past for this first weekend, because I wanted to have some of my favorite people sharing. So it's going to be a lovely Saturday night, a lovely Sunday morning, and please do join us. All right. I am now going to our official house musician, Omashar, to complete us with a musical offering.
I wasn't going to say that, but is that like a house wine? I hope it's like like the top shelf, man. It's like so. What a brilliant start to the summer season, and I know how it feels when things seem to be going wrong. But from us watching it, nothing went wrong. It was pretty perfect, really, because you have enough support in this team, so that if something does go wrong and you have to go and clean your teeth, no one sees that. Well, they saw you cleaning your teeth, but there's a beautiful support team here, and tonight's topic was so important for me, and I'm sure that whoever's listening is important too. And I have a little short, that's a double entendre, a short little song here, and I rarely play music by other people, but I trust what comes into my mind when I go to play somewhere. And I spent many years in Hawaii. I was the director of music for the unity of Hawaii. And anybody who spends a lot of time in Hawaii, apart from getting so laid back they fall over, will know of a guy called Israel Kamakaua Ole, and a beautiful Hawaiian singer who's now passed, but he hasn't really, because I just saw on YouTube his song "Over the Rainbow" medley has just had its 1 billionth hit, so that's pretty interesting. So here is a song of his, and it's called "White Sandy Beach," and I love it. This song, it's really simple, and so let's take a few deep breaths, and let's imagine we're have no problems in our world. We're walking on a white sandy beach, palm trees swaying, and ocean lapping at our feet.
Yes. And you can move.
I saw you in my dream. We were walking hand in hand on a white sandy beach of Hawaii. We were playing in the sun. We were having so much fun on a white sandy beach of Hawaii. Sound of the ocean soothes my restless soul, and sound of the ocean rocks me all night long. Those long hot summer days, lying here in the sun on a white sandy beach of Hawaii, and sound of the ocean soothes my restless soul, and sound of the ocean rocks me all night long, and sound of the ocean soothes my restless soul. The sound of the ocean rocks me all night long. Last night in my dream I saw your face again, and we were there in the sun on a white sandy beach of Hawaii, on a white sandy beach of Hawaii.
Thank you, brother. Is
Oh, thank you, thank you,
right.
thank you, thank you. Ah, that's very, very beautiful. Thank you very much, Oshar. Thank you for being with us every night, and thank you for covering for me and being part of that support team tonight while I was having my technical
Well, that was
nightmares.
fun because it was a learning curve, because I've never pressed those buttons before, but I found some of them.
Ah, oh, well, thank you. I've got our main guests on, but I also, just as you started your song, there's a very powerful message that came in from one of our regulars, Storm. talking about the challenges of his daughter, who hasn't really communicated in a she's got issues. I won't go into the specifics, but so let's just close with going into a prayer. And as most of you know, I always like to say maximum grace. So maximum grace for Storm. I'm going to add him to our view. There he is. So maximum grace for you, Storm. Maximum grace for your daughter, Maria. Maximum grace. Maximum grace. Maximum grace for all of us in this Zoom
Her
tonight.
name is Mariah.
Mariah.
Uh,
MUH, like the M sound, but it's MA, and then RI is like RYE. Mariah.
Mariah.
Mariah. Beautiful.
Blessings to her, blessings to you, Storm, and blessings to everyone who's with us. Thank you for those of you who turned your cameras on. And I do want us to be more interactive, so please, more thoughts, comments, always. And it's optional, you never have to turn your camera on, but if you want to, we love seeing you. We love, like, look at how wonderful it is to see Eleanor and Joseph and Kathy and Storm. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for being with us, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night and or Sunday. God's blessings, everybody. Have a beautiful evening. Good night.
Thank
Good night, everyone.